Hi guys, so I know I started doing some deck reviews. I've already done the Sacred Path cards and the Medicine cards by Jamie Sams, but I had someone on my page request that I do a review for Madame Endora's Fortune cards by Christine Filipak, I think that's how it's pronounced. So let me just go ahead and jump right into it before I give you my opinion of this deck. This deck comes in a little cardboard box like this. It's actually a very pretty box, and unless you take your cards with you, like if you keep them in your purse or in the glove box of your car or something like that, then this box will actually keep your cards pretty protected. It's not super thick cardboard. It's a little bit flimsy, but it's pretty sturdy for like shelf life. I tend to keep my cards up on a bookshelf because I'm very OCD with them. I like them to be in a certain order. So if you do keep your cards with you when you travel, then it would be a good idea to get something else to put them in. So they come with a little guidebook. It is about 30 pages long. It's very, very, very short. And I personally don't think that this is the best guidebook that Christine could have done for this deck. But it does cover a lot of things. This little beginning intro is kind of what she created the deck for. And then we've got the table of contents. And something that I think is really interesting is she broke the cards into 5 sections. Okay. And let me check. There are... oh gosh. It doesn't say on here. I forget. There are... Let me count. How many cards are... 32. So I think it's 38 cards is what's in here. So it doesn't say anywhere on here, but I just counted them. I'm pretty sure it's 38. So, but she divided the deck into 5 sections: the Royal Court, the Realm of Fable, the Bestiary, the Treasury, and the Elements. And then she's got a section towards the end of the book on reading the cards, and it's got like layouts and stuff like that. I'll show you that here in a bit. But there are virtually no reproductions in this guidebook. At the beginning of each section, you'll get 1 or 2 pictures, like right here. And then she's got a general description of what each section is about. And then she goes into the cards. And each card in this deck is basically a symbol or an archetype, or a mythological being. And so she's got very short, very concise, but also very to the point and clear interpretations of each symbol or archetype in this deck. So like I said, there are virtually no reproduction pictures in this little guidebook. So it goes very, very, very quickly. You could actually probably read this entire guidebook within probably a couple of hours. And I mean, it's, like I said, it's very short, but it's very concise and very to the point, which I do appreciate. And there are virtually no reproductions in here, which is okay with me. You can have the cards with you. So once we get through those, then she's got the section on reading the cards. Again, it's very short and to the point. It's about 1 page. And then she's got a section on spreads, which she calls the oracles. And so she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's got 6 spreads in here. Okay. The first couple of them are on this page, and then she actually gets to the point where she shows you how they're laid out. So this is one of my favorites, the Sears fan spread. I use this one a lot. Oops, skipped a page. So then there's one over here, and then on the very last page you get one more, and then that's it. That's the end of the guidebook. So my personal opinion of this is it's not the best guidebook that she could have done with this deck, but it's good enough. So if it's not your very first Oracle deck, then you should be fine. However, as far as first starting out with Oracle decks, I would get something else. Maybe a deck by Doreen Virtue, because her guidebooks are very, very good. And the cards are also really easy to use because she actually usually puts the meaning of the card on the card. Very concise, but it's still there. So if you're getting your very first deck of Oracle cards, I would not recommend this be your first deck, just because the experience you may have with it may not really turn you onto Oracle cards. But again, that's just my opinion. That's my experience with this deck. It was probably my 15th or 16th Oracle deck, so I was able to work with it just fine. But if it's your first one, then you might have a little bit of trouble. So let me go ahead and show you the cards themselves, and they are absolutely beautiful. If it's not your first deck, I would recommend investing in these just because they are so gorgeous. This is the back, this beautiful, like, filigree kind of pattern, and it looks like it's 3D, like it's actually sticking out, but it's not. It's just really, it's done very, very, very well. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. So the actual layout of the cards is like this. She's got the image and the name of the card and a few words down at the bottom for what it stands for. It has been my experience that with a lot of these cards, I get messages that are different from the ones that she puts on these cards. They are applicable, I've figured out, but I usually get different messages from the images that she put on the cards. So, right now we're going through the Royal Court, which is the first section of this deck. And this is the image that she has on the box for the cards. So, very, very pretty cards. I want to say Victorian, but not all of them look like this. They definitely look like they've all been hand painted or hand drawn, and I absolutely love that. I love when an author puts this much work into her deck, her or his deck, I should say, because I have a couple of decks that are by men and they are just absolutely stunning. So this is probably one of my favorite cards in the whole deck because it's very eerie and it really gets the point across. So, and the next section is the Realm of Fable. You have the Golem. He's kind of creepy looking. And the Green Man. This is not my favorite depiction of the Green Man. I have seen other depictions of the Green Man that I thought were not quite as fearsome looking, because it's been my experience that he is not a being to be feared. And this image draws fear from me, and I don't like that. So this is not my favorite image of Green Man, of the Green Man. Hindrance. Love this card. Medusa. I love this card too. And the Satyr. Kind of looks like Philoctetes, huh? Only taller. And then Seduction. This card's beautiful too. Serendipity. This card actually reminds me of a very dear friend of mine, so I love when I draw it. We have the Siren. Very eerie, but very powerful artwork on this card. And the Sphinx. The Spirit. So like I said, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this deck just because a lot of times I get messages that are different from what are actually on the card. So the next realm is the Bestiary. We have the Black Cat, very Egyptian looking. Love it. And this section, the Bestiary, I actually have a little bit of trouble with it because a lot of the cards look exactly the same. For instance, the Chimera and the Dragon. They look almost identical. So when you get to this section in the deck, you may have some issues like that. And here we've got the Griffin and the Unicorn. Again, they look almost identical. And the Wolf. And the Wyvern. Wyvern? Is that how you pronounce it? Again, they look almost identical. But then you have these three. You have the Raven, which I get a lot of Morrigan energy, a lot of crone energy with this card. It's absolutely incredible. And the Serpent. And the Spider. So, like I said, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with this deck because it is stunning, but a lot of the cards look a lot alike, and I don't usually get the same kind of messages from the cards that the author applied to them, which is fine. The Caduceus. This is the Treasury section of the deck. And the Chalice. I mean, some of these images don't really evoke a whole lot. The Dagger, because they're merely symbols and archetypes. The Gate. I like this one a lot. The Hand of Fate. The Hourglass. The Key. So, I mean, some of these are a little bit plain for my taste, but the artwork is still beautiful, and that is why I wanted this deck. I don't use it as often as I probably should. Love. This card absolutely bores me, so that's not one of my favorites. But I love this one, the Mystic Circle. It reminds me of the World card from Tarot. And the Oracle. The Shield, and the Talisman. I love all the different symbols that are on that thing. It is just beautiful. And the stone in the center looks like emerald. So, and then the last section that we have is the elements. And we start with the sun. I love this image. This is, again, one of my favorite cards in this deck, and one of the reasons I am glad that I bought it. The Moon. And the Stars. I love this card too. And then we have Air. And I love on these element cards, she's actually got the symbols for the elements. And then the color that most closely represents that element. Earth, fire, water. And though there is no spirit card in this deck, she added this one, Winds of Change. And I pull this card a lot. It has a very potent and very positive and kind of uplifting energy. So, to recap, if it's your first Oracle deck, I would not recommend getting this one just because the guidebook is not very good. Well, I mean, it's a good guidebook, but it's not as in-depth as you would probably be looking for if it's your first Oracle deck. I get a lot of different messages from the cards than what the author intended the messages to be, which is a little, it's a little frustrating, but if you don't mind that, then no problem. The artwork is gorgeous. If you travel with your cards, you may want to get something else to put them in because the box that they come in is kind of flimsy. So overall, I would rate this deck probably 4 out of 5, just because it was not my first Oracle deck, so I was able to kind of adapt to it pretty quickly, but it's not a perfect Oracle deck. However, you can get it on Amazon or eBay for, I think it's $12 to $15. So it's a pretty cheap deck, and I forgot to say this earlier, the cardstock that it's made of, that the cards are made of, is it's very good cardstock. So the cards will actually last a while, which is what's super nice. So like I said, I would rate this deck about a 4 out of 5. So if it's something that you would be interested in looking up, I would recommend it. Like I said, if it's your first Oracle deck, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you've been working with decks for a while, then I recommend giving it a try because it is a beautiful deck. And that is my review. I really hope that it helps, and I will see you all later.